Steve can attribute, AJ can attribute. I didn't work hard enough. Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you very much. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to this wonderful event. We've been part of it for a number of years. It's an honor for us to be part of the Detroit Economic Club and this luncheon and all the wonderful leaders out there. But maybe just as important is your leadership then guides other future leaders from these high schools. So it's wonderful and it's inspiring, quite honestly. So thanks a lot for being here. Did you miss me last night?
I did. I missed you a lot. We did have fun though. I think people enjoyed it.
Oh, I think so too. You're bound to have a good time. It's you, Avery, and Todd Jones. We wake up every day, we get a chance to represent the Old English D. It's the greatest logo in sports. Sorry, Todd Bean, the Red Wings are right there, but the Detroit Tigers English D is the greatest logo in sports and the greatest sports town in America. And to work with friends the way we do and represent this organization and represent this city, you will be very, very proud to know that while you're working here and this team is on the road, this team does exactly what you would hope it would do, representing you, Tigers Nation, and the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan the way you would want them to.
I do have a quick announcement though.
Okay.
When the Tigers exit the room near the end of today's event, please stay in your seats as you won't want to miss today's raffles. Let me just tell you what they are. Have I gone on script?
No. I'm the one who usually goes off script.
I
Yeah.
always gotta make sure.
Yeah.
All right, here's what I got. We got Riley Green autographed baseball. Need that for my man kid. Take that.
Miss him.
Spencer Torkelson autographed jersey. He's here.
Big time winner.
I need that also for my man
You
kid.
loved that last night. Two-run jam.
And the last thing, Miguel Cabrera autograph back. Take a round back.
All right, we're going to get things rolling here. We're going to hear from Spencer Torkelson, Jake Rogers, Kerry Carpenter in a moment. But first, the two men who are guiding this Detroit Tigers organization into a new era, Scott Harris, the president, and AJ Hinch, the manager, will join us here front and center. Gentlemen.
It's working? Yep. All right.
Hello.
I'm good.
You're not just Major League Baseball fans, right? You also watch a little college baseball? Everybody out there, I hope? Okay. First question for AJ Hinch, who was a fantastic player at Stanford, and whose alma mater just advanced to the College World Series in a very unique way. How much does that bother you that you reach on a right fielder losing the ball?
Zero.
Zero.
Two walk-offs last night. First one, very nice Torque. Second one, very nice Stanford. Sorry, Torque. Torque went to Arizona State. But yeah, some big wins. And I think one thing is funny about the Major League Clubhouse. As soon as the College World Series comes around, you'd be amazed at how proud everybody is where they go until they get eliminated. We're still playing.
Well, again, AJ, I got a chance to play with AJ in AAA. And there was a situation that happened where the bases was loaded. And I just missed the curveball. It was a hanging breaking ball. I popped it up and I'm mad. And I throw my bat down and I jog to first base. Well, mind you, he's a catcher on the team. He's my teammate, my peer. So I go and I'm in the dugout and I go stand at the desk and I'm putting my hands up like this at the rail. And this guy, AJ Hinch, comes over, puts his arm around me, and he says, Simon, big leaguers don't do it that way. You got to run that ball out. I told him that day that he was going to be a great manager because the one thing he does know how to do is that's handle people. And he knows how to get to you, he knows how to interact with you, but he also understands the games to a point that is beyond my belief. But with that,
I was going to be a manager because I couldn't hit.
well, we're part of the B club.
So at the end of the day, we were in AAA for a reason. I was going down, you were going up, so we're telling the truth story, that's what it was.
Well, tell me about this season so far. I know we've had a tough June, but love what we saw in May, and hopefully we can obviously get back to that. But kind of give the people tell them about the team and the direction that you guys are.
No, I mean we are busting it. Coming off one of the worst couple weeks result-wise of the year. It's tough because you build up this momentum, and we had an incredible winning record, ton of breakout performances, and then a ton of injuries. And so when we entered June, there was a ton of optimism, and then we hit a brick wall. And they weren't games where we were falling apart, or they weren't games where we were kind of out of it after the first or second inning. There were some tough losses. We had a six-game road trip, I think 2 or 3 walk-offs. We come home, had as close to a home walk-off as you can get the way we lost the first game. There was a lot of momentum that seemed to come to a halt, and then last night happened. And I hope that last night shows the fans and the people that follow us that the resolve is still there. We have a lot of work to do. The guys have completely bought in, and we are on to better days despite the recent memory of the last 10 games or so. We're doing some good things. Good things are happening. We've got to get healthy. We need to get better. But we have some things on the rise.
And a big reason they're on the rise is because of Scott Harris's vision and his team. You have helped build San Francisco into a franchise record number of wins. You helped the Cubs build their team into a championship. Where does this situation start with you in terms of those two teams and how you're trying to build it forward, similar to what you did with those two organizations?
Yeah, I mean, those two organizations were in different spots than this organization is, but the mentality is the exact same. We are going to focus on what is right in front of us, and we are going to try to make incremental progress wherever we can. So when I think about the incremental progress that I want to make, it's already happening. It's already happening, under the hood. When you look at this team, I know we're in a rough patch right now, but let's not forget the progress that we've already seen in, a couple months here. We had, as AJ just talked about, an excellent May. We went 16-11 in May. That's progress. We started to take control of the strike zone in this organization. We went from 20th in pitcher walks last year to 4th right now. We went from 29th in batter walks to 8th right now. That's progress. We can't ignore that. What counts is winning games, of course, but those are the seeds of progress that lead to winning games. On the defensive side of the ball, there was some criticism about our defense early in the season. I think what you're seeing every night is we have some pretty dynamic defenders on the dirt and in the grass, and we have one of the best defensive catchers in all of baseball right now, who's behind the plate every night. That's progress. So in my job, I have to look under the hood. I have to look at the processes behind what we're doing, and then the outcomes. And those are some real signs of progress that are ultimately going to lead to a brighter future here in Detroit. And those are some of the signs of progress that I saw in Chicago that helped us win a World Series. Those are some of the signs of progress that I saw in San Francisco that helped us win 107 games. And that's the track we're on. There are going to be growing pains. There always are going to be growing pains. But these are the seeds of progress that we need to pay attention to.
And AJ, you have a lot of versatility on this roster. Guys that can play multiple positions. They play infield. McKinstry's one of those guys that can play outfield, infield. How have you gotten these guys to buy in to that process? Because again, when we were growing up playing this game, we talk about playing an everyday player.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They want to play, first off, so it's pretty easy when you talk about playing time. If they want to play, they need to move around a little bit. And secondly, when they buy into the notion that they can be the answer whenever something happens. I mean, if you look at last night as an example, it's not ideal to have infielders in the outfield, but we had A.B. Ibanez in left field who swung the bat pretty well last night and got on base, came up with a huge home run and kickstarted the scoring for us. And he's playing in left field, ends up throwing out a runner, completely out of position from where he normally plays. You have Zach Short, who could move to right field as soon as he made a couple of dynamic plays in the infield because of some moves that I made, and I put Scope in to face a lefty. He ended up getting a base hit against a righty later in the game. And the fact that Shorty could go out to right field, a position that quite honestly had never played really until the big leagues, gave us a chance to make a different decision in a different part of the game. So the players, one thing I asked them during the beginning of the spring was, what are you willing to give up in order to win more games? And more games means wins today's game. And to a man, all of them have said anything. Like they'll do anything to win that day's game. And that's why you see Hossie go to left field whenever Jake catches, or you see Nick Maton go from third to second whenever I make a decision to put somebody in, or you see Zach Short play second, third, short, center, and right field in the short span of the season. That mentality allows for so many decisions that I can make that will allow more wins when the production comes with it.
In our broadcast on Valley Sports, we oftentimes talk about controlling the zone. You guys talked about it in Lakeland. It's one of the first things you talked about, Scott, when you were introduced as the team's president. Can you tell our audience what you mean by controlling the zone, each of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, at the most fundamental level, it's swinging at strikes and throwing strikes. So when we talk about hitting behind the scenes, we talk about knowing the pitches that you can drive, knowing the pitches that you can do damage on, swinging at those, getting your A swing off as many times as possible on those, and shutting it down for the rest. That's prior to 2 strikes. So, you know, in a 1-0 count or a 2-0 count, when, you know, a really talented opposing pitcher, you know, dots a 2-0 sinker down and away, you can't really do much damage on that pitch. It's a strike, but you can't do much damage on that pitch. Part of how we're going to hit for more power in this organization, part of how we're going to score more runs in this organization is taking our walks, like I talked about in the previous answer, and then also being self-aware enough and being disciplined enough to swing at the pitches that we can really do damage on and shut it down on the rest. You know, you've seen that. For those of you who've been watching our games, our bat quality is continuing to improve every night. Our discipline at the plate is continuing to improve every night. And then on the other side of the ball, on the mound, it means pounding the zone as many times as possible. You hear these guys on the broadcast talking about the race to 2 strikes. They talk about the race to 2 strikes because we talk about the race to 2 strikes. We want our pitchers to get to 2 strike counts as quickly as possible and then use their best shapes to put hitters away. That's what when we talk about with our players and with our coaches and our coordinators and all through the minor leagues, controlling the strike zone, that's a big part of what we're preaching, and these guys are responding. You're seeing it every night.
And AJ, how have you seen your team grow from last year to this year?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of change, and you know, it seems easy when you get a new boss and you get a new message and you get a new voice that all of a sudden things change just like that, and that's not reality. Reality is today's players want to know why. Like, how is it going to benefit them? How is it going to benefit the team? And what I found this year, and again, we have to take this part of the season like in compartments. You have the beginning of the season, how are we going to come out of the gate? We were as prepared as we've been in my 3 years, yet we did not get off to a great start. Thanks a lot to Tampa. When you get into the season, now all of a sudden you catch that winning vibe and you catch that mentality. It's player buy-in is 100% behind it, because the players are the ones that are out on the field. We have our evaluations. The players are out there in the box. The players are out there on the mound, and we arm them with as much information as they can handle. But the player buy-in actually gets them to utilize all the different information that we can provide. So what I found what I'm proud of this team, I said it last night after the walk-off, is the resolve in this team is real. We are going to play our 27 outs. Last night it was 30. Actually, they didn't get us out, so it wasn't totally 30. But we had to play extra, and we're just going to keep playing. And I think Tork said it best last night when he's like, that vibe of like, we're still in it when we fall behind 1-0, 2-0. Because at this level, that's going to happen. And you have to have belief before it happens. And this team is starting to figure out that no matter what happens, innings 1 through 3, innings 4 through 6, innings 7 through 8 or 9, like, we have a chance to come back and win. It's never over until you continue to get your outs and take your at-bats. And last night we got a benefit from it. Other nights it's been taken away from us and we've gotten walked off. But the reality is, play the whole game, see what happens. At the end of the year, count up your wins, see if you're good enough to make the playoffs.
How have you been able to balance, real quick, how have you been able to balance the analytics and then managing with your gut?
Well, I mean, that's always a funny question because, you know, everybody wants to know. I get judged by results. Right? One of the toughest parts about managing is that, you know, outside of my boss, like, process be damned. Like, no one cares about your process if the guy gets hit 4 and strikes out. Or if you put a guy in motion, he gets thrown out. Or I hear it all night in the front row when you walk out and the guy gives up a base hit. Like, they let me know, like, that was a dumb move. So I get it. So when you say balance with your information, information you're got. Obviously, I'm always combining what I see with what I know. What I know is all the information that we dive deep in on what the best situation is, who's the right matchup, who's the right player to start, who's the right player to pinch hit in the right situation. It doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees your success of proper preparation. Then I know a little bit, the extra ingredient is what I know about the players. I know when Tork or Carp or Jake have a good day or a bad day, or I know what's going on in their personal life that impacts their professional life, because a little known fact is like, these dudes are people first. They have a lot of different things that they deal with in their life before they get in that batter's box on that mound. So I balance all of that in trying to put everybody in the best situation possible, and then we have to accept the results. And the results in this game, unfortunately, are going to be largely negative. You fail more than you succeed. And so that psychological balance of like, I'm going to manage with all the information that I can. I'm going to apply a little bit of feel for the players, and then I'm going to pump the players up like crazy because they're the ones that have to go out there in the middle of it. I had nothing to do with Tork going deep yesterday. I had nothing to do with Carp coming off the IL and going 8 for 11. I had nothing to do with Jake's Oppo homers outside that he shaved his mustache. So, small contribution to Jake's homers. And my point is, I know it's a long rambling answer to ask you, like, it's always a blend, because we're humans. But we are going to be prepared because of the information.
Lastly, Scott's from the left coast, and his wife's a Midwesterner. How have you enjoyed Detroit, and what have you enjoyed most about the state of Michigan and their support for the Tigers?
Well, I was going to say weather until today. It's just been such a warm welcome for my wife and me. We just bought a house in Birmingham. People walking on the sidewalk every day, stopping at our house, introducing themselves. Not because we're with the Tigers or anything, just because we're people. And I spent a lot of years in Chicago. I missed that Midwestern charm, and I feel it in full force here, and that's probably my favorite part.
Well, it's great to have you. Thanks, guys, for coming. Scott's got to go. AJ will be back at the same stage here in a moment, but thanks, fellas. We appreciate it. As we had said to bring up the players, this is some of the things that they've done. Your attention to the video board.
More of that, and then the sac fly is against an old teammate, Joe Jimenez, and I knew he liked his fastball. And before that bat, I knew that like when he gets hyped up, he leaves that heater up, sometimes a little above the zone. So I was looking for the heater up, was going to take any slider down, and I was just on time with the heater and got the job done.
Isn't it amazing all the things they think about, even while they're on deck, in addition to what they're going through in the batter's box?
Jake, I got one for you. Everybody wants to talk about your framing. We want to talk about your cannon for an arm. I want to know what encouraged you to change the look, because the beard was really nice. What goes into, I understand the superstition. Is that part of it? Because baseball players, we are very superstitious.
Yeah, it had all to do with superstition. Literally everything. Boys kind of went on a little skid here and lost 6 in a row, and I came to the park and I actually we were flying back, and I told Zach Short, who sits next to me on the plane, and I told him, I was like, man, I need to change it up, just, for a win. Not just for his, because I was scuffling at the plate as well, but I came to the park the next day and actually AJ was the first person I saw. I went in, he saw me with the mustache, and then I went and shaved it off and walked out, and he hit me with a wow. Which is what I hit myself with, because I don't think I've seen my upper lip in a couple of years. But yeah, and it happened, got a few hits that night, but yeah, I had it all to do with superstition.
Kerry, you came back from the IL and you haven't missed a beat, obviously. What's the challenge in returning from an injury like that for an outfielder, especially from the right shoulder?
The throwing was the hardest thing to come back. But like at the plate when I went on my rehab assignment, you would assume that I forgot how to hit for a while. But just like keeping that confidence and the confidence that the coaches had in me, they were just saying like these are basically just live at bats, just get your eyes back on. So just taking it for what it is. Like I knew I wasn't going to see the ball great in my first couple games, so just staying confident in that.
It's fascinating. We go in that clubhouse every day. Simon's used to it because he played, obviously. I'm used to it just over the years, but I thoroughly enjoyed talking with each and every one of these guys, not just always about baseball, but we talk a lot about life, and we talk about various things that are going on in the world. And Kerry and I were talking about Arizona's strength in running and how they're one of the most aggressive teams in all of baseball. And I said, you know they're going to test you in left field. He goes, oh, I know, and I'm going to be ready. And I said, how do you do that, if you're coming off a shoulder injury? He says, it's about getting behind the ball, and it's about my footwork as much as it is my arm strength. And by golly, they tested him, and he threw him out to play. It was sweet.
My question is this, guys. I've again been around you guys so much and been in the clubhouse and seen you guys even on the road. Man, this is a tight-knit group. How much fun are you guys having being teammates and being in that clubhouse and trying to turn this thing around here in Detroit?
Me? I'm the talker. Yeah, it's been great. I definitely agree. It's as I was telling my table earlier, this is the funnest I've had, playing baseball in a while. We've been on some great teams in the past, and just having this, team camaraderie is everything. You want to come to the park, you want to have fun, you want to enjoy what you do, and we play a beautiful game, and you have 20, 25 other guys around you that love playing it. It makes it a lot easier to come to the park and be successful. And I think that has a lot to do with winning. Getting that winning culture is being able to come to the field, and you see the media, friendly faces, and everyone's coming up saying what's up. Great game, and you have Tork and Carp and the whole team. You go to the park every day and just kind of we call it chop. We call it chopping it up, but talking to each other and just kind of seeing what everyone's doing and having fun.
How many dog owners do we have out there? A lot? Yeah. This guy should be raising his hand too. Get a new one. Who named your dog? And
Oh, what kind of dog is it?
Yeah.
I got a French bulldog.
That's the dog.
Great dog.
And the name?
Coco. Honestly, I don't.
Doesn't seem like it fits.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it kind of is like first thing that popped out, so I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. And it's a girl, so I had a bunch of guy names picked out, but Coco was.
So how much fun do you guys have playing with Miguel Cabrera? I know as kids you guys watched Miguel Cabrera. You're obviously one of the best hitters to ever play this game. How much do you enjoy being his teammate, and how have he kind of impacted you guys, kind of helped you guys in any way?
No, my hitting coach growing up would like screen record Miguel Cabrera's swing, like on Sunday Night Baseball, and be like, "Hey, this is how you need to hit." and so just like for years and years, ever since middle school, high school, I've watched him, and I've watched his swing, watched his approach, and then getting to experience it in the dugout. It's pretty special, and just watching him go like throughout his business and how he carries himself is just really special.
Turkey put his glove up in spring training, just like Bubba put the glove up. He watched you and said, "All right, it's your time." How important was that for you?
Yeah, having Biggie, not only as a teammate but like as a friend, it's special. And the way he kind of almost handed me the first base job was like that was really, really awesome and something I'll remember forever. But yeah, like Carp said, he's got it figured out, and he doesn't take anything too seriously. It's a long year. It's monotonous. 162 games, not a lot of off days, and to see the way he goes about his business, how he stays consistent in his process, it's like that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned from him.
And lastly, before we let you guys go, you're all up here and coming to Detroit in different ways. And I think you guys have always told me pressure is self-induced. But when you're 1-1, you come over on a huge trade for a big name, and you come to this team where a lot of people outside of this organization didn't necessarily believe you could get there. How do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis from each of your expectations, maybe personally and team-wise?
It's just, having a small memory. It's a big thing. My dad reiterated, when I was growing up, is, pressure, it's tough. It's a tough game. It's a game of failure. So, coming to the park every day, I think, it kind of ties into my previous answer is like, you want to come to the park and you have a bunch of guys that are, on your side and that want to, play this game with you. And you come to the park every day and have those guys there, then it's a lot easier to to have fun and enjoy it. You guys see Miggy on social media. He's the same guy in the clubhouse. He's a lot of fun, and to have that guy lead the way and having fun like that, it makes it a lot easier to take that pressure off.
Yeah, I'd say you just gotta embrace it. A lot of pressure last year. I didn't handle it very well, and I just kind of step by step created a process in which I trusted, which I followed, that I knew if I could get these little short wins and keep stacking those up, the big picture is going to pay off. But if I focus on the big picture when I'm right at the beginning of it, way too many expectations, way too much pressure on yourself. So it's really just stacking the small wins, trusting your process, and letting that play out.
Yeah, for me, my faith plays a huge part in it. But in the minors, when I came up, I just had a spirit of fearlessness and nothing to lose. And so when I got to the big leagues, I almost thought like, oh, now I have something to lose, and I lost it for a little bit. But now just getting back to playing with that, because the people I look up to most, like players, and they're the people that play fearlessly and play with nothing to lose. So that's kind of how I deal with it.
Fellas, thanks very much. Good luck tonight, man.
Let's stay right here.
Steve DeLorean, President of the Fan Club, has got some questions from our fans. And AJ Hinch, your boss, will join you front and center. AJ?
You should.
I think you've asked an awful lot of them.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Simo. And we've got a bunch of questions that came in from you guys, audience, via email. So I'm going to start with AJ. We already discussed with Matt and Simo, April was not the greatest start. May was rocking and rolling. June was a scuffle until last night. Someone wants to know about you off the field. How do you handle the peaks and valleys of a 162-game Major League season off the field?
That's assuming I do handle it. I think the work-life balance thing is real. I'm a baseball nut. I watch baseball all the time. I follow other people a ton. But I will tell you this: when I got married 20 plus years ago, my wife, who was not the biggest baseball fan in the world, demanded that when I got home, I was present. And as we had daughters, I have two daughters, that when they needed me to be their father before they needed to hear about the rant about potentially one of these three guys. So I've really taken that to heart my entire time. I wasn't great about it as a player because we have so much just built up tension, and you want to do so well, and there's so much at stake. The difference between a big leaguer and a minor leaguer is like the biggest leap in the world. As a manager, I throw myself into these guys and make sure that I'm the same person every day, to make sure that I'm a constant. The way that my family was growing up, the way that my wife has been my entire marriage, the way that my mentors have been. But there are some quiet nights after a couple tough losses. I can be honest with you.
We're going to go to Torque. So we've already established the presence of Coco in your life. If you could pick one teammate to watch your dog while you're away for the weekend, who would you trust? And let's give you a chance to throw shade. Who would be the last teammate you would ask, and why?
It's a great question. I would say I would let Greenie watch her. He's her godfather. But I know he's not going to do anything. He's just going to hang out in his apartment all day. She'll be chilling. That's what she does best, and that's what Greenie does best. So I think it's a perfect match. And then I would say I wouldn't let Vest. It's a random call out, but he said she was ugly. So Vest is not allowed to watch Coco.
He's not here. You're allowed to throw shade on him. Good. Jake, growing up, were you always a catcher? And who was your MLB role model growing up?
MLB role model was, I had a few. Griffey is a big name, just because my brothers loved him, and I grew to love him too. But as far as catchers, Pudge, Von Rodriguez was my favorite player. I started catching when I was about, well, caught my whole life, but really started catching when I was like 13. But yeah, I played shortstop and catcher up until college. And I tried to get AJ to put me in the lineup somewhere else, but I don't think that's going to happen. No, but I played everywhere. I always kind of considered myself, a very, just adaptable and being willing to play everywhere, and wherever they need me, they'll put me. But I realized pretty quickly when I was in high school into college that I was a pretty good catcher, and that I could handle the pitching staff and blocking and throwing, and just kind of being able to control the game back there. I just kind of stuck with it, and it was just an obvious answer to stay with it.
Kerry, somebody wants to know one of your favorite MLB ballparks to play in, other than Comerica, of course, and what's one of your favorite cities to visit for an away trip?
Chicago has to be one of my favorite cities to visit, and I'll catch a lot of heat for this one, but Tropicana Field in St. Pete was my favorite ballpark because I grew up going there. It was kind of like a dream to open our season there this year.
Awesome.
Then we lost every game there, Carter.
A couple wins at least.
AJ, do you have a managerial role model?
Well, I never planned on managing. I thought I was going to play for 20 years, Miggy style, but that wasn't going to happen. But one of the things that I always did as a player is I would pick the brain of the managers that I played for. So I played for Charlie Manuel. I played for Art Howe. I played for Larry Boa. I played for Alan Trammell here in Detroit. So I tried to grab something a little bit from Gene Lamont, who was a coach here for a long time, was my AAA manager. So you try to grab a little bit of something from everybody. But when I became a manager, I was in my early 30s, and I went from playing to the front office to the manager's chair. And the Bobby Cox, Jim Leland, Tony La Russa, Cito Gaston, like the veteran managers were very good at pulling you aside and going, do this, don't do this. Like, look like this, don't look like that. So that meant a lot to me I was a 33-year-old manager, having no clue what to do, standing in front of 25 at the time, players, trying to look all managerial, trying to look the part and be the part. I had some of those guys pull me aside and say, this is what managing is all about. And I've been very grateful for them.
Torque, let's talk hockey and celebrations in the dugout. I've seen some really bad slap shots, but which teammate do you think would make the best NHL player based on their hockey celebration and slap shot? And what are some other team dugout celebrations that you've witnessed that you think are pretty cool?
It has to be a teammate. It
Yes.
can't be myself. No, I played hockey growing up, so I would say myself. But if I had to choose a teammate based on their slap shot, Keel's off the list. He missed. I think McKinstry has a good one, so I'll have to go with Zach McKinstry on that one. And then another team celebration that I enjoy. Gosh, I don't know. I don't like when other teams hit home runs, so I can't answer that question.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, Jake, Tigers had a great social media video the other day with you and Tyler Alexander when you guys were in Philly. You were trying both of those famous cheesesteak restaurants there, and you visited a mosaic garden. So how fun was that little excursion, and what's so important about letting fans see the more personable side of you guys?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I hadn't had many cheesesteaks in my life, so it was pretty cool to go and do that with Todd. We call Tyler Todd, so if you hear me say that, that's who I'm referring to. So, yeah, me and Todd had a blast going around. We get along really well. We kind of got really out there personalities, and they wanted to follow us around, which is what we do when we go to different cities. We'll have a day game and get in. At night, one thing we can do is go out and enjoy the food of that city, and that's kind of what we all do is we have dinner. So it was kind of a cool thing for social media to follow us around to do kind of what we normally do. You know, because normally, you know, you guys see everybody on TV and we're in competitive mode and we're, you know, all have serious faces. Sometimes we smile and laugh at stuff that happens, like me hitting Torque the other day when he got the foul ball and I hit him on the ground pretty big body here. But yeah, it's cool, you know, for people to see, you know, what we're like away from the park, which, you know, it might be completely different. You have some guys that are very competitive and, you know, you always see, you know, just this serious face, and then, you know, you see, you know, Todd, he's kind of that way. He gets out there and gets pretty competitive, and then when he's out of the field, he's just this happy, you know, smile all the time, you know, jokester that, you know, is quick-witted, so it was fun.
And the final questions focusing on cheesesteak for those traveling to Philly. Jake, is it Pat's or Geno's?
Flavor, I'm going Geno's, but Pat's kind of gave us the Philly love of, we walked up and they were like, oh, y'all, you know, Todd was the one that threw the night before, and they were like, oh, y'all are Tigers players, and I was like, yeah, he started, and he kind of just hit him with the, oh, sorry, Schwarber hit a homer, you know, we beat y'all up pretty good, so we got the Philly love there, so, but as far as flavor, I'm going Geno's.
Detroit love's greater than Philly love, but we're glad you had a good time. So Spencer, Jake, Kerry, AJ, I know Scott Harris had to leave. We cannot thank you enough for giving us your time. Go beat those Braves tonight. Some of us are going to be there watching. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a great round of applause for our 2023 Detroit Tigers.